welcome to Florida. I'm glad you guys are here, and I appreciate it very much. I've actually been really looking forward to this talk. It touches on a couple things I really care about. I'll talk shortly a little bit about football, but I want to talk about the role you play in people's lives. I believe in that part of it passionately. So let me just talk about the football part of it for a moment. I started playing football. I must have been 6 or 7 years old, and I basically played until I realized that I belonged in the NFL, but for my lack of size, speed, and talent. And so when I made that realization at that point in college after my first year, well, that and, an injury, I had to go on with the rest of my life. But my passion for football continues to this day. I have coached for a number of years for my sons. Both of my sons play. And we were one of the few teams at the 8-year-olds that had like films of the opponent. You know, these little teams only have like 8 plays, so it didn't matter because if they had a better team than we did, we knew what play they were going to run and it still worked. But I am concerned about the future of football. I always tell people the future of football is in the hands of a bunch of moms and dads around the country right now. We don't have Lithuanian quarterbacks. We don't have, Croatian wide receivers. Basically, the game of football is largely, our talent is provided for by American families, and a little bit in Canada, and we're expanding in Mexico, but that's where it comes from. And so if a significant percentage of American families decide that we're not going to let our kids play football at any level, it won't be long before the game begins to deteriorate. I would argue to you, you're beginning to see it already. If you look at the pro game and you look at it, I had this conversation a couple of days ago with the general manager. That's the other thing I do. I'm an amateur scout. I think I'm the only U.S. senator that watches all 22 films of college and NFL games, and then have my own little internal draft board. And let's just say people are lucky I'm not picking these guys because I haven't always been right. But one of the things that you observe is if you look at the kind of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, you used to have 10 or 12, maybe 14 elite quarterbacks in the National Football League in the 70s, about an average of 10 to 13 in the 80s, even into the 90s. Today, there's some really promising young guys that are out there, a couple coming off injury. Wentz over in Philadelphia, obviously all right, and by the way, you're like getting older when these kids you saw play in youth league are in the NFL, and it's a good thing to see. But other than but you start to think about kind of who are the top level guys in the game. They're all in their mid to late 30s. One of them's over 40, the guy with the cut on his hand, and I know. I don't like it, but it's all envy-based because I'm a Dolphin fan, so I'll just admit it right now. But anyway, and if you ever follow his diet, I'd rather just retire at 35 than eat the garbage he eats. But anyway, if you think about it, so you see a real drop-off. Roethlisberger and Drew Brees and Brady, and then Aaron Rodgers, and then you start running out of names. And so you wonder, well, what's happening? And one of the things we've noticed is the people playing, there's 2 things that have happened. The first is the college game, the high school game, and the NFL game are in many ways 2 different sports. So I'm just curious. I mean, I'm not going to ask for the show of hands things, but I've seen increasingly, even at 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, people are moving to this more spread out offense, which is forcing you to put maybe your best athlete at quarterback consistently. The problem is the college recruits them as the athlete, but they're not the quarterback in college. And so what ends up happening is we're not feeding the quarterback pipeline, and that's a big issue. And the other problem is that there's now competition for the game that wasn't there 25, 30 years ago. America was a three-sport country with a little bit of boxing in between, and now it's really evolved into a multi-sport country. So if you want your kids to get involved in a sport, soccer has no equipment, there's a league everywhere. I don't have anything against soccer, it's a good source of kickers, but I'm just saying that, no, I don't know the game, but I appreciate it. Interestingly, Coach Harbaugh in Michigan thinks soccer is a great teacher of sort of balance, and he likes guys that played that. That's the other thing I would say is the sort of specialization thing is really bad for kids. They really should be playing all these different sports in addition to wiring their brain and their bodies right for all of that. It's really the right thing to do. It teaches you to compete at every level. But I said that to someone once. Your kid really should play other sports. He goes, he does play other sports. He plays tackle in the fall and flag in the winter and whatever. I said, no, I mean like basketball and all these other things. But I'm digressing. My point being is that there's a lot more competition now for the game than there used to be. And we saw it. We saw it this year. This is the first year, well, when I ran for president, I wasn't able to coach that year. But this is the first year I wasn't able to coach, and my oldest son wasn't able to play because we couldn't field the team. Now, there's two reasons why that's happening. The first is more schools in Florida are offering middle school, so it's taking some of our guys away. But the other is we just don't have the people. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I get it, man. I mean, football is a 4-night-a-week thing, plus the game and the equipment and all that stuff that comes with it. But it's the first time I became really concerned about how this projects out over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I think, there's no other way to put this, but I just honestly believe that this constant barrage of negativity about the game has driven us to a point where people it's gone from caution to irrational fear of a game that we've been playing in this country for a long time and has done a lot of good things for communities and for individuals. And that's the part I want to focus on with you today, because the statistics don't lie. The best player on your youth team or your high school team has a very low chance to ever make it in the NFL. And even if they did, the chances are their career will not last very long. I always tell people that. You can look at an NFL roster, everybody on that team was by far the best player in their county, or one of the best players in their county, was almost certainly one of the best players in their conference, or certainly on their team. And these guys sometimes last a year or two before they have to make a decision about going on the rest of your life. But put it to you another way. Even if you play and make it to the Hall of Fame, by the time you're 34, 35, you got to figure out what to do with the rest of your life. And there's only a handful of jobs behind the booth and in the booth and behind camera. Everybody else has to go out and figure out what to do with the rest of my life. So that's part of it to think about. But the part I want to focus about is the things you learn through football that I honestly think virtually no other sport in America is able to teach. The first thing it teaches you to do is accountability. And we are a nation in desperate need of individuals that understand about accountability. Now, I'm not saying there isn't accountability in volleyball, that there isn't accountability in soccer, that there isn't accountability in volleyball or in tennis. But football accountability is a little different. In football accountability, if 10 people do the job right, but one guy does the job wrong, someone gets hurt or gets messed up pretty bad, right? So if that left tackle misses that block on the blind side of a quarterback, that one mistake is the difference between a quarterback getting hit, fumbling the ball, turning over, and maybe even leading to a score going the other way. If a receiver runs the wrong route, or the quarterback reads into the wrong route and throws it into the wrong coverage and it gets picked and brought back the other way, that leads to a dramatic impact on a bunch of other people that you're working with. And that level of accountability, the notion that I need to do my job because other people are depending on me, is one of the things that football teaches that few other sports do. You can dominate, even in the NBA, if you put the right player on a team, you will see that team's performance elevate. With 5 people on the court, you can dominate a game as an individual. In baseball, a pitcher can theoretically dominate the game. No matter, it may end up being a 0-0, 84-inning game, but a pitcher could literally control the outcome of a game. There is no such thing in football. You could argue the quarterback is very important, but I don't care if your quarterback puts 54 on the board or the other team puts 55. Accountability. Football teaches accountability in a way that no other sport teaches accountability. The other thing it teaches is responsibility, which is related to accountability. And that is, yeah, it's August and my friends are still out at the beach because school hasn't started, but I got to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning because practice started. And I'm telling you, if more people learned to show up on time when they didn't want to show up, that alone is a life lesson that we desperately need to instill in people in this country. And there's no other sport that teaches that. The third thing it teaches is sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, but you have to do. And to that, I go back directly to my career, which was neither long nor illustrious, but certainly helpful in everything I've done in the rest of my life. When I played in high school, we had a very talented team. I think my junior year, we put like 8 or 9 guys in what was then Division I football. I don't know what they call it, championship series, but big schools. And unfortunately, one of the responsibilities that I had as a free safety is to come all the way up in some plays and cover the pitch man on an option. They don't even run that anymore. So we said, what's the option? We had leather helmets, and we used to run the option. And the other responsibility I had was a tight end on a seam, right up the seam. You had to come up and basically either pick it, or if you didn't get there on time, hit somebody that usually outweighed you by 40 or 50 pounds. Either one of those two plays, if I didn't do my responsibility, it was going to be a big problem. And a lot of times that hurt. It hurt because you're coming downhill on a guy that outweighs you and is coming full speed on you. Now, he may try to juke you, but likelier than not, if you weigh 150 and he weighs 210, he's probably just going to try to go over you. But if you don't do it, he's going to go down the sideline and score in front of everybody. And the same with the tight end. If you're not there, he's going to catch it, and basically you're the free safety. It's done because our linebackers were somewhere else on it in that coverage. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to, you didn't want to take on some pulling guard that was coming around the corner on a run play and run support and basically create a pile, an obstruction. We know what an obstruction meant. The coach said, create an obstruction. Obstruction meant some guy that outweighed me by 100 pounds was on top of me. And I was a speed bump they had to work around. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I had to do it. I had to do it. And that's another lesson that life is incredibly valuable. You are going to be called upon time and again. These are a lot of grown people in this room, so you know this. Our young people need to learn that oftentimes in life there are things you want to do and things you have to do. You have to do them because it's your job. You have to do them because people are counting on you. You have to do them because that's what everyone's expecting. You have to do it, or there are consequences for not doing it. And football teaches that. But the last thing football teaches you is resiliency. And it is by far the most important lesson that we really need to instill in our children, because I don't mean to stand up here now as the father of 4 kids and sound like my dad, but I'm going to sound like my dad. We shelter young people in this country from tough truths too long in their lives sometimes. Now, that's not true for people perhaps that are coming from challenging backgrounds, but I'm telling you, I see it every day. I also have to be an adjunct professor at a university. And I'm surprised how many 19, 20, and 21-year-olds still have parents calling to find out about why their kid's grade was something. 21 years old. And a lot of times as parents, it's natural in us to want to solve everything for our kids because we're afraid of adversity. We're afraid that if they run upon something that's difficult, it's going to hurt them. I'm going to tell you what's going to hurt them, and that is not allowing them to fail. Now, I don't mean fail like hurt themselves fail. I mean fail like be disappointed. I mean fail like compete and lose. I mean fail like really want something and it not working out, because that's going to happen. And you might as well learn about that when you're 16, because if you're learning about that when you're 40, then you got big, big problems. And football teaches about that resiliency. So if you're a cornerback and you just gave up a big play in front of everybody, you got to come back. I mean, the game's not over. You got to come back. You got to put that aside and come back and play again. You cannot sit there and let that linger in your head. Resiliency is you're down 14 points or 21 points, but you're still trying to win. You don't just sit around saying, this is not going well, I'm so upset, I can't believe what's happened. That's resiliency. Resiliency is the ability to confront a challenge that you didn't expect and continue to fight through it. And above everything else that I learned by playing football, that's the thing that has stuck with me the longest, is the resiliency part of it. The notion that you got to, no matter what happened, you ran for president and you lost, you picked the last number wrong in the lottery, whatever it is that you need to be resilient about, you got to get up and go again, because the game's not over. And I don't know about any other way to teach that, other than allowing people to experience failure and learn from it. I can tell you categorically, I have learned much more from defeat than I ever have from victory. I have learned a lot more from failure than I ever have from success. Because when you don't succeed, it causes you to stop and say, why didn't it work? What do I need to do better to get better? When you win, you won. You don't have time to stop and think about how to make things better. You won, you're too busy celebrating. But when you lose, or when things don't work out, or when you try and it didn't happen for you, now you got to stop and look back and say, how can I get better? That's the difference in life between winning and losing, is that resiliency. And football is a phenomenal teacher of resiliency. And it's one of the things that I tried to instill in people in youth football all the time, was you can't control what already happened. That stuff already happened. You can't go back and undo that. You have to basically focus on moving forward and what can you do now? What do you control now? Because you can't control the past. And that resiliency will serve these young people for the rest of their lives if they learn it. And I'm not saying there's not a lot of ways to learn it. I imagine there's resiliency in chess. But I think resiliency in football is a little different, and in sports in general. 2 more points before I close, other lessons that I think are just as important, but I didn't emphasize them enough. The first is you're going to get out what you put in. See, a lot of people in life want to be like the things they see on television. I want to be that. What they have no idea is how much work went into being that. They only see the result on Saturday, or they only see the result on Sunday. But they don't realize the countless hours that went into getting into that point. This is particularly pronounced actually in basketball. All of these people, were Michael Jordan, LeBron James, these guys aren't just good. They don't just show up and play. I mean, these people are working on their craft year-round, or did work on their craft year-round. And football teaches that too. It's an opportunity to teach people a very powerful model, and that is you're only going to get out of things what you put into it. You're only going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you're willing to put in the work and the effort and the sacrifice on the front end, that's how you get to the back end. Now that's very valuable in football. That's more valuable in life. Because no one's entitled to anything. You are not entitled to success. You have to earn it. And it is often the direct result of how much you do at the front end to get to that back end. And to me, you know, that is important. And the last, and the one I really want to talk about, is it teaches you to compete. And that is especially valuable in the business world. It teaches you to compete working with other people to achieve a goal. And a lot of kids don't know how to compete. They don't understand what competition is. Like, I'm not here to beat up on everybody. I'm just telling you that a lot of people don't know what competition is anymore. And when you put them in a competitive environment, they collapse. And football teaches you competition. And in competition, you go in knowing I am not afraid to lose, but I really want to win. And look, that's really important in football, but I can't tell you how important that is in life. When I ran for president, it was a big part of it. People used to ask me all the time, weren't you mad when he said this about you and that about you? And I was thinking to myself, when was the last time at the end of a boxing match did somebody ask one of the boxers, were you mad when he punched you in the face in the third round? Well, it would be a stupid question, right? Because you would say, no, man, it's boxing. The same with football. I played against friends. I've seen friends and brothers play against brothers. But for 60 minutes, between the white hashes and the lines, they hit each other pretty hard because they were competing. And the idea that you can compete with someone on a field and then come off it, or work with a bunch of other people to compete to achieve a goal, is an invaluable life lesson, no matter what it is you end up doing in your life. Why do I say all these things? Because the work you are doing to encourage people to get into football and stay into football is not just about saving a sport. Not just about saving a sport. We all love football, but America can survive without football. It would be diminished, in my opinion. It's my opinion, but it could survive. It's about saving a teacher of values and life lessons that I think has no parallel among any other competitive activity in American life. And it influences people on a daily basis, every single day. And if you have the opportunity to volunteer and to coach, and I'm grateful that many of you are doing that. I know most people in youth football, almost all people in youth football, don't get paid to do what they do. And even at the high school level, you don't get paid enough. I would say to you that you're doing a lot more than just teaching people how to play a game and putting wins on the schedule. You are influencing young men and even young women about life lessons that will serve them for the rest of their lives. And that's what we seek to preserve. And if anyone is under any illusion that a sport can't die, I ask you, to those of you that are old enough to remember the 1970s and 1980s, when every Saturday afternoon there were countless American boxers fighting for the heavyweight championship, fighting for the middleweight championship. There's no American boxers left. Because boxing died as a sport in this country for a lot of reasons. Sports can die. And in this particular sport, we don't just lose a game. We lose something that I think has served our country well in terms of instilling values in young people. Beyond anything else, that is the reason why I'm on my kids in sports. It doesn't have to be football, by the way. I mean, whatever it is they want to learn, because I want my kids to learn resiliency and sacrifice and accountability and working with others in a competitive environment. Because I don't know any other way to teach them that. You can't learn that in a video game. You can't learn that in a movie. You can't learn that by just reading books. And so the work you are doing to make the sport safer and more attractive isn't just about safety. That's really important. We don't want anybody getting hurt. The point of football is not to hurt your opponent. But it is a game that comes with some risk. You know what else comes with some risk? Life. Life comes with some risk. We manage risk. We diminish unnecessary risk. We teach people what they can do to make things safer. But the work you are doing to preserve the game of football is critical, I believe, to the future of this country. And that's why a U.S. Senator comes here to speak about it. Because, as I said at the outset, and I'll repeat it again, I don't know of any better way to instill these values in young people, at least through my experience, than what the game of football has meant to me. So more than anything else, it was to come here and just to thank you for what you're doing, because a few of you are coaching people that will play on Sunday. A few of you might even be coaching on people that will play in a Pro Bowl one day, which is going to happen right down the street here tomorrow, or Sunday, right? Sunday? That game is something else, and they don't tackle. It looks like a whatever. They're not supposed to tackle. Only Sean Taylor tackled in a Pro Bowl. But I get it. No one wants nobody getting hurt there. But that way, that's what football might end up looking like one day. But it's like a Globetrotter game, you know. But some of you coach, but a lot of you, most of you are coaching kids that are going to be CEOs of companies, generals, maybe even President of the United States. It's hard to believe when you think about it in those terms, but there's some 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old right now who's learning from you, not just what you're teaching through the game, but through your example. I know some of you are aware of that. In this country, we have a lot of young men that don't have men to look up to, and the only father figure in their life might be their coach. Your example, kids learn more from seeing than they do from hearing. Your example might be the only example they have for the next 5, 6 months of what a man is, or what a responsible adult is. You are influencing people today at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15 years of age that we're going to need in 25 years to run the military, run our companies, and run our country. That's the work you're doing. I'm grateful to you for doing it. Keep doing it. And hopefully this year we'll field the team so I can do it too. Thank you. God bless all of you. Thanks for being in Florida.